So spring has definitely sprung, and you know what that means? It means it is the off season. So after you've taken your 2-week unloading phase, which you do as soon as your season ends, then it's time to start building up. So what exactly should you be working on during the first month of your off season? I'm going to finish my little walking meditation, and then when I get back to the HQ, we will break it all down. See you in a minute. The goalie that you're going to be when you step on the ice for tryouts, training camp, or even playoffs next season is going to depend on the training that you do this off season. There simply isn't another time of the year when you can make the humongous gains that you should be making each and every off season. And unfortunately, there isn't a way to start in June or July and make up, all that time. You cannot pack sort of 16 weeks or 4 months of training into 2 or 3 months. It's impossible. So what I'm going to do in this series, I'll do one every month, is kind of walk you through the types of things you should be focusing on each phase of the off season. May is kind of our kickoff of the off season. I consider April early off season, so we're doing a little bit more base, prehab, that kind of thing. But once May rolls around, then it's on like Donkey Kong. And beware if you have a bunch of like junior camps, like junior B camps and things like that, mini camps. You can't stop training and just try to peak for all of those camps. You have to be training around that. So in programs like the game-winning goalie formula, that's one of the big things that we work on, is keeping you training and making gains, even though you have those mini camps, and adjusting your schedule so that you're still performing really well, feeling really great at those camps, but not losing sight of this essential time of the off season. So May is, we focus on the inside-out approach, and you'll hear me talk about this during every single phase, but essentially it's the method that I kind of discovered by accident when I started my career as a strength coach at physical therapy, a sport medicine clinic called the Fowler Kennedy Sport Medicine Clinic. And what I learned from that is when I worked with injured athletes and we couldn't do the big muscle things, we couldn't squat them or bench press them because they had these injuries, but we spent a lot of time working on the stabilizers and making those deep muscles strong and smart. And then what happened when they went back to their sport is they actually felt better than they did before they got injured. So that's the inside out approach. We can't produce force that we can't stabilize. So even if my muscles can produce a ton of force, if the deep muscles can't stabilize that joint, my brain won't let me use those big muscles. So the inside out approach, this is laying the foundation for it. Mobility is a huge focus of this. We actually spend a lot of time working on getting wider butterfly flare, deeper in the splits, but not by stretching, or not just by stretching, by teaching control through that range of motion, by working on flexibility plus stability, which is essentially what mobility is. So this is a time when, for the most part, you're not on the ice as much as you're going to be later on in the off season, or certainly in season. So we go after your mobility big time, and we try to maximize that envelope. Then we spend a lot of time working connective tissue strength, which isn't foam rolling or things like that. It's actually really hard and quite unpleasant with like slow eccentrics, isometric holds, those kinds of things. We start laying the foundation of eccentric mastery. So can I have strength at length? Can I control that motion out? Because in other phases, it's going to be not just controlling out, but also controlling back in. But we need to build that eccentric mastery first. Otherwise, we're increasing our risk of injury. And then we also lay our stamina base at this time, getting us used to a ground-based type of training, an agility type of training, getting our hips used to that. Those are the things that we focus on. Let's head down to the lab now, and I'll give you just some examples of the types of things that we do to address each and every one of these. I will see you in the lab. If you've ever had an off season where you've gotten super, super strong in the gym, but you don't end up feeling like Superman on the ice, it's probably because your program kind of missed this in the early stages, and it kind of missed carrying it through. And it's that inside out approach I talked to. It's about getting the stability in those deep muscles before we start building strength in the big muscles. So during this phase, we'll work on things like we might work on just single knee balance. Does your hip muscles know how to keep you in that nice balanced stable position? We might, instead of doing like bench press or things like that, we might do a push-up on a stability ball. When I worked at that sport medicine clinic I was telling you about, I got to work with a ton of our varsity football players, and they're really fun to work with because they're so big and they're so strong. And so we would be rehabbing an injury, and again, we couldn't do heavy weight training with them. We had to to keep it a little more stability focused. So I'd always ask them, like, how much can you bench press? Because every football player knows exactly how much they can bench press. So they, and they can bench press a lot. It's really impressive. So, take an athlete who can bench press more than 300 pounds for reps, and then we'd say, okay, well, we're going to get you to do just this stability ball push-up. And so it should be easier, right? Because the stability ball, it's like if I had my hands on a plyo box this tall, it would be a lot easier. So they'd get in the position, they'd be ready, and as soon as they bent their elbows, their hands would take off. They couldn't even do a single stability ball push-up, not because they weren't strong enough, but because they didn't have that stability. Bench press doesn't really build a whole lot of stability. So that sort of highlights. So that's an example of an exercise we might use in this early off season. And then I talked about adjusting tempos. So doing slow eccentrics or iso holds. Let's just stay with this stability ball push-up as an example. We want that connective tissue to be under tension for a long time so that it gets a stimulus to get stronger, to adapt, to increase its capacity. Again, when I worked at the sport medicine clinic, we would get all kinds of athletes coming to us who, all of a sudden had a sore shoulder and they didn't know why. They'd started training hard, since it was 6 weeks ago to 12 weeks ago, everything was going great. They were getting stronger, and now all of a sudden they had this tendon irritation. And that's the key. It's that they went based on how their muscles felt, they didn't give time for their connective tissue to adapt. Our muscles will get stronger at a faster rate than our connective tissue, so then we create a weak link. So the muscles get strong, pull on that tendon, that's a weak link, and now it gets irritated. So we'll do things like, say we're doing this push-up, we might do a 5-second eccentric. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, push. Or we might do a 5-second iso hold at the bottom. So I might come down, hold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then push up. So techniques that are going to put that tendon under tension. It also kind of prevents you from just going nuts and starting off lifting as heavy as you can. If you're doing 5-second eccentric split squats, you really can't go grab the big dumbbells for those or the barbell for those. You need to keep your weight a little bit lighter. So we give the tissue time to adapt, and we build those stabilizers. During our strength workouts in the gym, we'll also start building the foundation of speed, which will start with a big emphasis on deceleration and efficient mechanics. And then we also want to start getting your stamina going. And we do that in a really specific way. You're not going to just start hammering away on the bike or going out for long runs, although we will do some steady state stamina during this phase. It's a time when we want to build some of our aerobic adaptations that will help improve our efficiency of our aerobic system. When we improve the efficiency of our aerobic system, it helps us recover much more quickly in between high intense bouts, which really is what a goalie needs. Goalie is a repeat sprinter, so the faster we can recover between bouts, the better. And the technique we use for that is category 2 stamina training, which is a steady state training, and it's easy. It feels too easy. So the mistake goalies make is they try to go out too hard. But we'll start with about 30 minutes of category 2 aerobic training during this phase. But we'll also want to add in some getting the hips ready for ground-based training. So the stamina training I do with goalies is mostly ground-based unless there's an injury we have to work around. By ground-based, I mean you're on your feet. It's an agility-based stamina training. So changing directions, using our hips forwards and backwards, side to side. So we'll do some just soccer field, I call them soccer field shuffles. So we'll jog the long line of a soccer field or whatever, an open space. We'll side shuffle the short side, jog the straight line, side shuffle the short side, so that just our hips are getting used to it, and we can see, how's this feeling? We don't do a whole lot of volume. This isn't high intensity yet. We still do it, maybe at 5 or 6 out of 10 on a rating of perceived exertion scale, but we just want to get the body used to it. It also tells us if someone's like, oh, hey, my ankle hurts when I do that, or my shins hurt when I do that. Then we can troubleshoot and see, okay, where's there an inefficiency in this chain before we get to our higher volume, much more intense stamina training that comes in the later phases of the off season. So just like any good house, your successful off season starts with building a good foundation. It might not be the most exciting part of your house, but it is essential. So don't skimp on that. You don't want the contractors skimping on your foundation, trust me. And we're still getting stronger in the gym and building, you know, our stamina that we need. It's not like we're not achieving those goals, but we're doing it through a lens of inside out approach, really going after that mobility to expand the envelope so then we can develop that mastery. And we start with laying the foundation of eccentric mastery in this phase. We also do our strength training in such a way that we get that connective tissue adaptation so that we're going to be injury resistant throughout the rest of our off season. We start laying the stamina base for ground-based stamina training and our speed base. These are all key ingredients. If you want programs that I've designed that do all of this, you can check out, head over to goalietrainingpro.com, click on the link that says training programs. It has all the info in there. Otherwise, this gives you a nice little roadmap to follow. So I will see you, well, I'll see you next week as I always do, but next month, look out for the video where I'll walk through what we focus on in phase 2 of the off-season training. If you like this workout or this video, give me a thumbs up. What I was gonna say is, if you wanna see a sample of some of the exercises that we use or more samples of some of the exercises we'll use in the off-season, you can check out this video here, and I will catch you next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. Love you guys.